Hook, you ever had someone so determined to make your life miserable that they end up destroying their own instead? Well, let me tell you about the time the local HOA's self-appointed queen bee, let's just call her Karen, decided to pick a fight with me over land she thought she owned. She called the cops, she threatened fines, she embarrassed me in front of neighbors, but what she didn't know was that the very ground under her HOA's feet didn't even belong to them. It belonged to me. And by the end, Karen's entire little empire came crashing down. Stick with me. Because this isn't just about revenge. It's about standing up when people try to bully you, and winning in the most unexpected way possible. When I first moved back to my hometown, I wasn't looking for drama. My dad had passed away a year earlier, and I inherited a good-sized piece of land. It wasn't glamorous, just a wooded stretch with some old farmland, but it had sentimental value. Dad used to take me camping there when I was a kid. He'd always say, "Son, land is the one thing they can't make more of. Take care of it, and it'll take care of you." So when life got tough, I decided to move onto the land, set up a small, modular home, and rebuild my piece. Simple plan, right? Wrong. Enter Karen. Karen wasn't just the president of the local HOA, she was the dictator. The HOA covered the neighborhood that sat right up against my land. Big, modern houses with picture-perfect lawns. She strutted around like she owned every inch of soil. And the moment she noticed me moving in, it was like she saw blood in the water. It started small. She stopped by one morning with a fake smile plastered across her face. "You can't park that RV here. It's against OA guidelines," she snapped, pointing at my truck and camper. I calmly explained, "Mom, I'm not part of your HOA. This is private land." Her smile twitched. "We'll see about that." And just like that, the harassment began. Notices appeared on my truck windshield. HOA violation. Letters stuffed in my mailbox. Never mind the fact I wasn't under their jurisdiction. Every week she'd show up, demanding I comply with community standards. At first, I ignored it. Dad always taught me not to waste energy on nonsense. But it escalated fast. One afternoon, I was hammering together a shed when flashing lights pulled up. 2 cops got out, hands on their belts. "Sir, we got a report you're illegally squatting on HOA property," one officer said. I nearly laughed. I handed them the deed, my deed, with my name and my father's before me. They looked embarrassed, apologized, and left. Karen, watching from across the street, turned beet red. You'd think she'd stop after that. Nope. She doubled down. Petty fines, neighbor gossip, even trying to block deliveries to my place. She wanted me gone because, in her words, I was lowering property values. And I'll admit it wore me down. Losing Dad, trying to restart my life, only to be hounded like I was some criminal. It hurt. There were nights I sat on the porch staring at the stars, wondering if I should just sell the land and run. But then I remembered Dad's voice. Don't ever let a bully push you off what's yours. So I started digging. One rainy evening, I was flipping through the dusty old folder of land deeds and maps my dad kept in a safe. That's when I noticed something that made my heart stop. The HOA neighborhood, the pristine little rows of houses with their trimmed lawns and fancy gates, was actually built on land that still legally belonged to our family. Somewhere along the way, paperwork had gotten sloppy. The developers leased part of it decades ago, but the HOA never renewed the lease properly. In plain English, they were squatting on my land. I called up a real estate lawyer the next morning, handed him the documents, and watched his eyes widen. You realize, he said, you technically own not just your lot, but the entrance road and half the HOA's common areas. They've been trespassing for years. I couldn't help it. I laughed for the first time in months. We filed the paperwork quietly. Then we waited. The storm hit at the next HOA meeting. Karen stood at her podium, barking orders about lawn height and paint colors, when my lawyer and I walked in. You should have seen the look on her face. He cleared his throat and said, Effective immediately, my client is reclaiming his property. The HOA has no legal right to enforce anything here. In fact, you owe him back pay for use of his land." The room exploded. Neighbors gasped, whispered, some cheered. Karen went pale, then red, then tried to scream over everyone, calling me a liar, threatening lawsuits. But the papers were airtight. The cops she once called on me. They were now escorting her out for causing a disturbance. Within weeks, the HOA collapsed. Without legal land rights, their power vanished. The signs, the gates, the rules, all gone. Neighbors who once sneered at me were now shaking my hand, thanking me for freeing them from Karen's reign of terror. And Karen? She moved out, humiliated, still ranting about how unfair it all was. As for me, I fixed up Dad's land, planted a garden, and finally found peace. It wasn't about revenge. It was about standing my ground, about honoring what my father left me. And here's the message I want you to take with you: bullies thrive when they think you're powerless. But sometimes, all it takes is knowing your worth and holding on to it to turn the whole story around. So if you're facing your own Karen right now, remember, you might be holding the deed to something they can never take away.